Welcome to the NintenFusion podcast, a podcast that fuses past, present, and future Nintendo thought. I'm David, accompanied by my friend Jordan. Now, Jordan, if you had asked someone maybe 3 years ago to tell a funny joke about Pikmin, what do you think it would have been?
Pikmin 4, am I right?
Exactly. Though, at what point is it a funny joke rather than something that would make us cry?
I think at that point it was long enough that it was a joke, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like, oh, we were told that Pikmin 4 is in development. Where is it? It was never coming, and it didn't come. But anyway, this week we're kind of continuing on our discussion about Pikmin. You know, it's kind of funny. We were a Zelda podcast for like a month or so there, right? With a couple of our episodes. Well, now we're a Pikmin podcast.
We're already caught up on Zelda episodes with Pikmin.
Exactly.
We actually did not make as many Zelda episodes as we were expecting because we had a bunch of like trips and stuff. And
yeah, so we got a little busy the month of May and middle of June, but we'll get back to the Zelda stuff. We still have to do our really long episode about Tears of the Kingdom and review it, though Jordan still hasn't finished the game, right?
I am very slow. I am 2 dungeons in.
Whew, that's one more than our like big dungeon episode that we recorded like almost 2 months ago.
Yeah, I decided I'm going to kind of savor it. Zelda games don't come out very often, so I'm just not going to blitz through. And I'm also really slow with open world games because I kind of just want to go and see everything that I'm not supposed to see yet, and then go follow the main path.
I think that's a very fun way to play through it. I blitzed through it because I just wanted to know how the story went, and so that I wouldn't be spoiled, because I'm in too many communities where somebody would be bound to spoil something. But I've also taken a break. You know, I'm still haven't cleared all of the side quests. Definitely haven't gotten all the Koroks. But anyway, we're not here to really talk about Zelda. But know that episode is still coming. We know you're probably eager to hear what we have to say about the game as a whole. But today we wanted to continue talking about Pikmin, because in our last episode we talked about Pikmin 1 and a little bit about some of the things that are upcoming in Pikmin 4. But today we wanted to talk about Pikmin 2, since that got its re-release on the Switch with the HD collection or individual releases, however you manage to pick up the games on the Switch. While also kind of framing it in a bit of the context of, should Nintendo release more GameCube games in this HD style? Because as we mentioned in the last episode, Pikmin 1 and Pikmin 2 for the Switch, while HD and nice, have had their textures updated and whatnot, they're really just emulated GameCube/Wii copies that have had improvements made to them similar to the Mario 20 or 35th anniversary collection. So I think we'll start first by talking about Pikmin 2 and what we love about it most, and then we'll transition into that. How's that sound, Jordan?
Yeah.
Okay, so Jordan, what made Pikmin 2 different? Why is it not like Pikmin 1?
So Pikmin 2, rather than like 30 days to find 30 ship parts, focuses on collecting treasure and just becoming like as rich as possible. So the story being that Olimar brings a bottle cap back from Earth as a gift for his son, and they find out that that's worth a lot of money. And Olimar's like, yeah, like Earth is polluted with so much junk. So they go on a treasure hunt to Earth.
Well, and they go on the treasure hunt because the president of their company is in insane debt. So he's like, go pay off my debts.
Yeah. And so the big gimmick of this game is that you get 2 captains, which is actually pretty useful. Just for the simple fact that you can like have some Pikmin work on a task and then leave a captain there and then just run off with the other Pikmin and do something else.
Yeah.
I think it's a lot more fun that way. I'm really hoping Pikmin 4 has more captains.
I do too, because like I mentioned last week, that's one of my favorite things to do in Pikmin, is be able to control multiple captains and try to be as multitasky efficient as possible.
Yeah, it definitely increases the complexity, but it's also not like forced complexity. If you don't want to use the multiple captains, you don't have to. Like, you can just have them kind of tag around.
Yeah, they can be in your squad and who cares?
You could just leave one captain back at base and have him be solely just plucking Pikmin out of the ground.
Yep. Though I don't think they auto-pluck Pikmin
no, they don't.
right away.
Unfortunately.
That was such a nice feature that they added in 3 with the multiple captains. But yeah, no, you're right. And as part of that gimmick, you collect all of these treasures, and it's just a little bit more fun than Pikmin 1, where you have all of those random ship parts that are definitely alien and weird, all with the exception of like the spring and the flotation device or whatever. Like those are clearly based on human objects. But Pikmin 2, it's like definitely just random treasures from Earth. You know, Pikmin 1 kind of insinuates that this is Earth that Olimar lands on, but it's not like 100% clear and confirmed. Pikmin 2 like literally confirms it, because one of the first treasures you actually get is half of a globe of the Earth. So like this has to be Earth.
I mean, this game has a lot of product placement in it. You literally pick up a Duracell battery, so
that they reskinned in this HD re-release.
Oh, did they? I didn't notice.
Yeah, the very first treasure is that battery, and it's not Duracell. It's just like they made it look as generic as possible.
Yeah, I remember on the GameCube version, it was just, there was so much product placement. So did they change that for the Wii version?
I don't remember.
It's funny because like I did just play through the HD version, and I didn't even notice that the product placement was gone. I just assumed it was still there.
It looks like, so US and PAL, they had the Duracell batteries, and Japan, they did like a national Neo or high top battery type. And as far as I can tell, those are the types of batteries that we got in the US version, this HD re-release. I don't know. There are like a ton of different texturing differences, but it looks like the Pikmin wiki hasn't documented all of the differences between all of them, or between the Switch version. Oh wait, I just found a picture of the logo. It's literally just a super generic, and it's called Super Battery Electric Power. Yeah, it's not even the Japanese ones from before, so completely replaced. Anyway, lots of product placement in the game, but they replaced some of it. I just sent you a picture of it, Jordan. That's what the battery looked like.
That's the new one, right?
That's the new one.
Super Battery. All right.
But what Pikmin 2 also added, beyond just kind of changing up the premise to not be focused on a limited number of days, and adding that new captain and getting treasures, but they also added these caves, right? And caves are pretty much like universally the most favorite thing about Pikmin 2 in the community. Is that right?
I wouldn't say universally. There's a lot of controversy around caves. It's a love it or hate it sort of system. I'm on the love it side. I really love caves, but I have some friends who vehemently hate caves, and they are very, very upset that caves are returning in Pikmin 4.
Yeah, but caves are so good. There's a little bit of that pseudo randomness. So Pikmin was getting in on the roguelite genre before roguelite became super popular, right?
Yeah, I mean, there was not that many roguelikes by that point. You had Rogue, you had not a lot actually. You had the Mystery Dungeon series before Pokemon picked it up. I don't know if Pokemon Mystery Dungeon was out by that point, but yeah, I struggle to think like any 3D procedurally generated games before Pikmin 2. There's
I
probably
can't
some
think of
out
any
there,
either.
but none that come to mind. It was definitely a different approach.
Yeah, well, and even some of the music is random. I don't know if you knew that. In each floor, different pieces of the music are emphasized and stitched together differently as part of the randomness.
Oh,
so,
I didn't notice that. No.
That's why it's like so weird and ethereal. Is it's designed to also be that random weirdness, like the rest of the cave.
Yeah.
So, and to be fair, the randomness in the caves isn't that random. You know, it's like the same number of hallways, or mostly the same number of enemies, definitely the same number of treasures on each floor, but they can be stitched together and rearranged in particular ways to add that level of randomness.
I think
so that it's different.
I think it's always the same amount of enemies. So like, I think they have a select number of objects.
Yeah.
And then like it generates the rooms, and it's like, this is the number of rooms, this is the number of hallways, and then just place enemies and objects in certain areas, and we expect them to be in like these kind of like areas. So like we want this one behind the wall, or like the removable wall that you can destroy with Pikmin or something.
Right. So yeah, it's not just pure random, so you can at least look forward to that. And that helps the speedrunners too, because they know more or less what to expect on each floor.
You can still get screwed by randomness, though.
True.
There were a few where, like, as soon as I entered the floor, in like the spawning zone, I'm immediately getting attacked by enemies. Like,
yeah, that's not good.
and so, like, if you reset, like if you like close the game and jump back in, it always loads or randomizes like upon like startup. So it saves between floors. And so, like, if you reset and then go back to and then boot back up, it's going to be a different random floor than previously.
Yeah. So it's really nice that way. Like, if you get really screwed over, just reset the game and you're fine. And I think it's really exciting because the caves add a different level of difficulty because you cannot replenish your Pikmin, except in a couple of very rare cases where you can get Bulbmin, right? The little tiny guys that are bull bears that are actually Pikmin somehow.
There's also a few flowers where you can throw one Pikmin into it and it'll spit out like 8.
That's right. Yeah. I forget about those. In my playthrough of the HD version, I haven't gotten that far. I've played through a good number of caves, but I haven't gotten to some of the hardest ones.
And they get pretty hard.
Yeah, they definitely do. Like, one of the ones that is, in my mind, like the hardest, besides perhaps the final like end game or post game dungeon or cave, is the one with the water wraith.
Yes. Submerged Castle is terrifying.
It's one of the scariest places in all of Pikmin. Like, and I'm not even joking.
Yeah, it's
like,
not that bad if you're not trying to 100% the game, but if you're trying to get every single treasure, the gimmick of that dungeon is after you've been on a floor for 5 minutes, and like an unbeatable boss shows up with like steamrollers and just rolls over and kills everything.
It's terrifying. And I love it. Like, and it's one of the funnest bosses to fight once you get to the final floor, because then you can kill it. And it's super interesting how you have to work your way around that. But man, doing that dungeon is just always like heart racing. You're like, I have to do this efficiently or else I am going to get steamrolled, literally.
Oh, the worst is when he spawns inside your base. So like, I had some Pikmin carrying stuff back to base. And as soon as they got to back to base, and both my captains weren't in the base, he spawned inside my base and just like slaughtered all of them.
So sad. Oh man. Plus there's like some interesting lore that if you read the Piklopedia about it, kind of connects into Pikmin 3 a little bit, and it's just some weird stuff, man. The enemies in Pikmin are so weird. You're just like, what is going on with some of these descriptions? But anyway, a little bit more about like the caves. I also really appreciate how when you enter a cave, it tells you the majority of the different obstacles you'll have to fight. Like, oh, you need fire resistance here. You need the water. You need poison resistance. And the new one in Pikmin 2, the electricity resistance. They finally gave yellow Pikmin another purpose besides just being able to fly super high and carry bombs.
I think you don't see as many bombs in Pikmin 2.
No, you don't. Definitely not. There aren't that many bombable walls either.
Yeah. And like electricity is a bit unfair because it's the only one that just kills Pikmin on contact.
Yes.
all the other like dangers, you can whistle them out of it. Yeah. So like electricity is by far the most terrifying one, which is a big problem for like one of the bosses where he has all the elemental types, and all the like guides online are just like, just enter the dungeon with 80 yellow Pikmin and try to clear the rest of the obstacles with like 10 Pikmin.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that's how I did that one. Back when I played it the first time. I mean, it's crazy. Fortunately, in Pikmin 3, they rebalanced the electricity so that it isn't an insta-kill. It's much like the other elements where you can just whistle them if you're fast enough.
Yeah, it knocks them to the ground.
Don't die.
And they're kind of stunned for a bit.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and I don't know if it actually kills them. I think it can if they're like shocked for too long while they're stunned on the ground. But I don't know. It's been a while since I remember getting a red Pikmin shocked in Pikmin 3.
Yeah. There's also so many enemies. Like whenever there's electricity on the map, there are so many enemies where they don't like actually kill Pikmin. They just try to like maneuver Pikmin around the map.
Yeah. Like walk over to this electric gate.
Like they'll have like
you
these
can do it.
enemies that like whistle and like it overrides your command to the Pikmin and the Pikmin will follow them and they'll just run it. They're programmed to run into the electricity. It's like, come on.
Yeah, it's pretty unfair, but it's also one of the fun parts.
Yeah, well, like I said in the last episode, my favorite part about Pikmin is watching Pikmin die. So
You're so terrible. I feel so bad hearing them scream.
I just like there being consequences in games. It makes it feel better when you like overcome the trial.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. But yeah, besides the three returning Pikmin, your staples are the red, blue, and yellows introduced in the first game. Pikmin 2 also introduced white and purple Pikmin, which white and purple are still like my favorite colors, period, out of all of the different Pikmin that we have had in games, including like the ones that we've seen for Pikmin 4. Purple Pikmin are just really big and chunky, and they can carry 10 times the weight of a normal Pikmin. And they stun enemies when you throw them on top of them, which is so good. And white Pikmin are just super fast and resistant to poison, and they're just awesome little dudes.
Yeah, I do wish they increased the speed of purples. I don't know if they needed the nerf.
Yeah.
I really like purple and white. My biggest issue with them is that the only way to get purple and white Pikmin is by converting red, yellow, and blue into them with specified flowers in dungeons. So it takes a really long time to amass an army of them, which just kind of incentivizes you to just never use them in combat.
Yeah, which early game, I definitely don't. I feel so bad when a purple Pikmin dies. I'm like, I was just using you to stun them for a minute.
You have to like protect the purple Pikmin with like everything you can. Yellow or whites, it's fine for the white ones to die.
And if the white ones die, don't they poison the enemies that eat them?
They are ingested. If they're crushed, it doesn't do anything.
Yeah, it's true. I wish they had onions.
I just wish I could have armies of white Pikmin because they're so fast.
They're the speedrunner's dream. Yeah, they're super quick. They're not super effective in combat. Reds are still the most powerful from just like attacking with their heads when they latch onto an enemy. But they're so fast and having an army of them would still take down pretty much anything pretty quickly.
Yeah, I will admit there were a few enemies at some of the later caves. Where it's just like, I don't want to fight this with my Pikmin army. I'm just going to grab 3 whites and then throw them out as dinner.
Hey, it works.
Every cave, I'd also make sure to bring at least 10 white Pikmin with me. Just so that they could grab invisible treasure. Yes,
that's super important. The caves don't warn you about the invisible treasures, and only the white ones can sniff them out and dig them up.
Yeah.
So they're very important. But I mean, I really do wish that they had onions. It's kind of a shame, especially, I get why they did it. They needed to balance it because purple Pikmin are incredibly powerful and the white Pikmin would just sweep through early game if you could just make a ton of them all at once because they're so fast.
I think white is really powerful. I don't think purple would be that bad if you had a lot of them, to be honest.
Yeah, but the fact that you can throw them, and if they have any amount of height and they stun lock an enemy, if you just keep launching them at them, it's a lot. But you do, if you're going for 100%, not if you're just playing the game casually, you do need to have at least 100 purple Pikmin in the end game.
Yeah.
Late post game.
You need to get one treasure. And luckily, by the time I got to the treasure, I had exactly 100 Pikmin by the time I finished all the dungeons.
The first time I played through the game, I did not.
I refused to let any Pikmin die, and there was one dungeon. Oh yeah, it was the submerged castle. I had to do the submerged castle 3 times because I missed the treasure twice. I don't know how I missed it the second time.
Yeah,
which is the worst one to have to go back and redo.
Yeah, because even when you beat the boss at the very end, he still comes back every time you re-enter it.
Yeah, like on my second go through, I was like, I beat the boss. I don't need to worry about it anymore. And then he got me in a really bad position because of that. It's like, oh crap.
Oh, dang. Yeah. But I just think that 2 has some of the best design choices. I think that it's nice that I don't have to worry about the timer too much. You do when you're collecting overworld treasures, but not having that day limit makes it much more approachable to just kind of have fun and play through the dungeons. Because honestly, like the caves, we keep calling them dungeons. The caves are definitely the meat of the game. You spend the most time down in the caves if you're 100%ing the game. So
yeah, I think I 100% of the game by day 12. And that's
Yeah.
entirely because time is frozen when you're in the caves.
Yeah, exactly. Which is kind of nice, but I get why people are upset about that. But like, how would you handle the timer going down in the caves? Some of the caves get incredibly long.
Oh yeah, Like I think they get up to 14 floors. I want to say is the longest one.
Yeah.
To be fair,
But hey,
the 14 floor ones are like post game.
yeah, true. But I mean, if you really want to have the time limit inside a cave-like area, that's really what the challenge levels are for, especially in Pikmin 2. I haven't played through most of them, but they are designed to be, you have a time limit and you only have a certain number of Pikmin. Good luck, have fun. And I really appreciate that. It helps the people that like to have that timer just looming over their heads. I know it's not in the main story, but it's still another way to experience the cave-like areas with the timer.
Pikmin 2 also introduced a lot of new enemies. I think enemy design is way better in Pikmin 2 than
Definitely. Oh, absolutely. There were a lot more spiders for you.
Yeah, I was going to say my favorite enemy in the entire Pikmin franchise, which was in the overview trailer for Pikmin 4, so I'm very excited, is the spider that they gave a gun. They just took a spider and attached a gun to it.
It looks awesome. But yeah, I mean, they added the like elemental spiders that can also carry away enemy corpses. That makes it annoying to chase after them. And then when they die, they just spit out all of their elemental energy. And you're just like, oh.
If you want a hint on what to do with those, run immediately under them and then just spam throw Pikmin because they'll always.
They'll always hit.
They'll always hit.
Yeah, they're good. I liked how they extended the Bulborb family even further, giving us the Bulborb Queen or Empress, I guess, because you have the Emperor Bulbax in the first game as your final boss. Yeah. And then like the second boss in the entirety of Pikmin 2 in one of the caves is just this gigantic worm Bulborb, and that's the Queen, apparently.
I do like the Queen. I think that fight's pretty memorable.
She just rolls around a lot, and it's great.
Yeah, and spawns a whole bunch of zombie Bulborbs.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great.
Where if you like go through that room really slowly, you'll just get overwhelmed by enemies because it's constantly spawning them.
Yeah.
You need to just blitz through it as fast as you can.
And then, of course, you have the electric beetles that are awful if you don't have any yellow Pikmin. Where 2 of them, if they charge up, they make like an electric gate between them that will just kill everything that walks through them if they're not yellow.
Yeah, electricity is really terrifying. The other monsters that are really terrifying are the ones that generate bombs and then throw them at you.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh. Those are the worst. Because bombs are honestly more terrifying in Pikmin 2 than in Pikmin 1. Because sometimes you'll be walking around in a cave and a bomb will just fall from the ceiling and you're just like, oh my gosh, I just told my Pikmin to do something right now. Hurry, whistle them up. Get back here.
There's this one fish enemy that like as soon as you spawn in the map, it will run straight to you at your base. It will just start shooting bombs.
I had forgotten about that one. Yeah, that one's something. They added multiple types of frogs too.
Yeah, and I think frogs are more terrifying in this game than in the first game.
I think so too.
The silver ones kill so many Pikmin.
They're so fast. Like there were silver frogs in the first game, but they weren't nearly as fast. And yeah, no, just lots of really good enemies, lots of really great bosses. You know, we talked about the water wraith. I think that that's just one of the most memorable bosses in the entirety of the series, especially for me. Plus, it was so influential that they based the final boss in Pikmin 3 off of it, the gold wraith.
Yeah. There's a lot of like theories that that's like kind of like a recurring character in the Pikmin games because it was also one of the hidden bosses in Pikmin 1, right? In a way.
Kind of like it's very similar, but it more takes on the form of the gold wraith
Right.
in the beginning, because the gold wraith transforms in Pikmin 3 into the upright form that matches the water wraith the most. So yeah, there is a theory that it's the same being, but I don't know. It's a theory.
I have a fan theory for Pikmin.
Oh, okay.
So this is Earth, right?
Uh-huh.
Possibly post-apocalyptic Earth, right?
Yeah.
My theory for the reason why it's post-apocalyptic is because someone decided to give the spiders guns. I don't understand why they would.
Well, now you have proof, because there is a spider with a gun in this last trailer.
Yeah, the spider.
Well, and like the true final boss is basically a spider with all sorts of crazy tech.
The final boss is a spider with 5 guns or 4 guns.
Yeah. I also just wanted to mention that final cave is so hard.
It really is. Yeah. The last 3 caves are all really, really difficult. I think Submerged Castle is definitely the hardest one in like the main game. And then like once you get to like the amount like you have to pay off your debt with treasure, you unlock the final zone, and it's a very, very difficult zone. One of the most difficult in Pikmin. Probably the most difficult zone in the Pikmin franchise.
Probably, yeah.
And it has 3 caves in it, and they are very long and very combat focused and very unfair. Like there are moments where it's just like the game's like, you're still playing? All right, like we'll just keep throwing things at you.
You're gonna have to fight 8 gigantic bull bears that are on fire in the same room.
Yeah. We'll just put 2 Emperor Bulblaxes in the same room with water everywhere and bombs.
It's so good though. Like seriously, Pikmin 2 just rewards you for like learning how the game works. And again, you don't have to finish the entire thing 100%. It's just a fun challenge. You know, the game is done pretty quick, like in Pikmin 1, if you're just going for a kind of casual playthrough.
It's definitely a lot longer than Pikmin 1.
Well, I mean, getting just to 1,000 or 10,000 money isn't that long. It's a little bit longer than Pikmin 1, I would say, yes, but I don't know.
Yeah. I think getting to 10,000 money, so the amount of days, it feels like less time than Pikmin 1, just because like there's not as much.
But the total amount of gameplay time is probably more.
Yeah, I feel like it's
because you're down in the caves.
Much. It's a good amount. Like you're in the caves for a good amount of time. It also depends on like which treasure you go for.
Yeah, I agree with that. Based on what I've played so far, though, I will say like I think I just like with Pikmin 1, I still prefer playing the Wii version with the motion controls. Simply because I still felt like I had so much more control over where my cursor could go without having to move Olimar at the same time. But I think that Pikmin 2 HD is incredibly pretty still. It's just like the HDification of 1. And I really enjoy it. And I think that if you have any interest in the Pikmin series, like picking up these games is really worth it. You save $10 with the dual pack. And that's really cool that they did that.
Yeah.
They didn't have to do that.
I think so. I never played it with the motion controls. I never got it for the Wii. And even then, I still, like I said in the last episode, I still think I prefer GameCube controls just because I like having more free reign control with the C stick. I don't like it moving my camera around, which is a weird thing to say. But I feel like the game was made with just being able to like fix the camera by pressing L, and that's all I really need. And I really just want to be able to control my Pikmin, especially when some of the combat gets pretty heated.
Yeah, I can agree with that, especially in 2. You don't want to be moving your camera around very much in 2 when you're fighting things, but I do appreciate being able to move the camera around freely, left and right. I think that's a nice feature.
Right. I just wish that they would swap the purpose of L1. So that when you hold L1, that's when you can move the camera around.
Yeah.
Or at least give me the option to switch the 2.
Right. And they didn't have the free cam in the Wii version either. You had to center the camera constantly with, I think, the C button on the nunchuck.
Options are good, Nintendo. Please start putting them in. Metroid Prime 4 or Metroid Prime was amazing because you gave us so many options for controls.
Yeah. It'd be great. And it's not like you can go and use the button mapping feature to just switch buttons. Like maybe if there was something to be like, you press the L button to toggle it instead or something like that.
Oh yeah, that would also be really good.
But anyway, I think that Pikmin 2 is well worth getting it. You know, we've gushed about this game quite a bit, and we talked about Pikmin 1, and we will definitely be talking about Pikmin 4 after that releases. But now I kind of wanted to pose the question, Jordan, now that we've played through, or at least I've mostly played through the second one, but you've played through both of these. Do you want to see Nintendo do more of these GameCube HDifications that are basically just ports that have been emulated and upscaled?
Yes, absolutely. Like as much fun as it is to play them on like traditional hardware, because there's not like a whole lot of work put into these games. Trying to like run like GameCube games on HD TVs is not the best experience. You got like a bit of lag and all that stuff, and
yeah.
So having a port to an HD system that like operates, I like it. I don't have a CRT TV for my old GameCube games. Like we were talking about doing Pikmin episodes back in March because we knew Pikmin 4 was coming out, and we were talking about playing through Pikmin back then. And the reason why I didn't continue pushing forward with it was because I didn't like the way like my GameCube was running on my TV, and to the point where it's just like, I don't even want to play this.
Yeah. No, I get that.
So I was pretty excited when we got these.
Yeah, I'd have to dig out my Wii or GameCube from like somewhere in my garage because it's just in storage right now. So I'm in the same boat. It's really nice to have these games on the Switch. And, you know, even if they are fairly low effort, you know, when it comes to the ports themselves, they still look really good and the gameplay is really smooth. And I didn't notice any sort of input lag. Maybe some of the speedrunners noticed something, but I haven't really paid attention to see what they were saying about that. And it's just really nice to just have them on this portable system. Like, that's one of the great things about the Switch is it just has so many options and so many games that you can play, and you can play them on your TV or you can play them on the go. And it's nice to see that Nintendo's adding those GameCube games. I really think that having Pikmin 1 and Pikmin 2 released this way, along with Metroid Prime remastered several months ago, is a really good sign that Nintendo is not just thinking about giving us the games for Virtual Console or whatever, but actually putting a little bit of care and attention into the GameCube. I think we mentioned a couple weeks ago that the GameCube games are typically still very good looking, even in today's standards. Most of them have aged very well. And I think just doing this same type of treatment is plenty to give us the games. And I appreciate it. I like that Nintendo's keeping them about $30, or in the case of the dual pack, $50 for both. That's really promising to me. And I hope that we get a lot more.
Yeah. And the Metroid Prime was $40, but there was more work put into it than these ones. I do feel like game preservation is just really nice, especially with Nintendo and like how so many of their brands are built like upon like previous entries.
Yeah.
It would be really nice to get Fire Emblem eventually.
Oh, yes. Especially both the GameCube and Wii one. Like, we need Ike's Story. Yeah. They are so hard to get a hold of.
And you were saying this was an emulation of the Wii version. So we also saw the emulation of Mario Galaxy. So yeah, getting some of those Wii games would be nice too. Emulating Wii would probably be a bit more work for some of the games, but not for Fire Emblem. Fire Emblem was, I don't think there's any motion controls in that game.
No. If anything, I don't even think they used the pointer at all in those games, did they?
No, they were designed to turn the Wiimote sideways to play like the original NES games.
Cool. Easy peasy.
Yeah.
Fire Emblem doesn't need motion controls anyway. Like,
no. And those are my favorite Fire Emblem games. So I would really love to see Path of Radiance. F-Zero is always talked about. It would be a very good way to gauge interest in F-Zero.
Yep, definitely.
Especially if they can give it a bit more work where they give it online features.
I mean, I'd love to see Chibi Robo. I think that would be an awesome game to bring back. I love that stinky little robot. And they gave us the game on the 3DS and they were like, it's a platformer now. And we're like, that's not what made Chibi Robo great. Like, come on. Chibi Robo is a fun little game. It's about collecting all sorts of things and a little bit of platforming. And I want to see them do the same thing with, like you were saying with F-Zero, like gauge interest in the series and bring it back. Because I think we mentioned this in last week's episode where it's like the GameCube era was really liberal on different IPs and different experiments with Nintendo, where they just did some super wacky things. And some of them have stuck and some of them have not really ever seen a return. And I'd love for Chibi Robo to come back. I mean, it could be an opportunity for them to give us Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door again, gauge interest in the original series, or I say original series, like the better games in the series, because I swear, like the director of Paper Mario right now is like, we didn't even know fans cared about the old games or whatever.
I don't think that was the director. I think that was one of the PR people.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
okay.
They were.
Well, there was definitely somebody, right?
Yeah, it was an interview with I think Game Explain, like almost 10 years ago, where they said, "Are we ever going to get a remake for Thousand Year Door?" And the PR person was like, "What? People want that?" Which definitely made Nintendo look a bit out of touch.
Yeah,
but so that brings up the question. Would you rather have a remake of Thousand Year Door and Fire Emblem Path of Radiance or these HD ports?
So I would say I would rather have the HD port for Fire Emblem, and I would rather have a remake for Paper Mario, simply because I think that the HD full-blown remakes for Fire Emblem are best suited for the old NES games so that we can get those stories told.
Because both these games are often brought up into like the remake discussion.
Yes. But I think that I would rather the Fire Emblem team focus on remaking some of the older Fire Emblem stories in like a full, beautiful new type of game, kind of like Echoes did. And then Thousand Year Door would get the remake. So the GameCube Fire Emblem would just be the nice HD port, and then Thousand Year Door would be an HD remake. But at this point, I also just want Thousand Year Door to be re-released on Switch in any form, and I feel like the game is pretty enough that all they would have to do is do some upscaling of the original art that they made for the game anyway, and just slot that in instead. So I think it'd be really doable.
So I think my answer is the opposite. I would rather have the HD port of Thousand Year Door and the remake of Path of Radiance, because Path of Radiance is a much more cinematic game, and it'd be really fun to see that kind of be reworked on.
And that's a very good point.
They could definitely make it a lot more, because there's a lot of downtime or just like text scrolls in Path of Radiance, and it'd be pretty fun to like convert a lot of those like text cutscenes into actual cutscenes. Yeah.
That'd be cool, especially with like the full voice acting like we've been getting in Fire Emblem Engage.
Yeah.
And Three Houses, where like everything is voice acted.
And then my big concern about Thousand Year Door remake is we just had an episode where we were complaining about how we finally got Mario RPG remake and they didn't do it full justice. I don't think Nintendo has a good handle on letting Intelligent Systems is still a first party studio, but even being a first party studio, they're not like core Nintendo, so they're not allowed to do that creative of things with Mario. And we saw with Mario RPG that it doesn't matter that it's a remake. They're still going to kind of like give that corporate look to it in a way. Yeah.
Okay. That's a good point. Plus, like I was saying, I don't think it would be too hard to replace the sprites in Paper Mario with HD versions. I'm sure they have an archive of the original art that they drew, because they're not like sprites, like the 16-bit sprites that you get. They're actually like drawn characters.
I think the best thing we could get from Paper Mario is if it was the same level of remastering as Prime.
Yeah. Okay. I agree with that. That's what I want.
I wouldn't want like a complete rework of the engine.
Yeah, good point. Because if they rework the engine, they would probably end up recreating the combat in the style of Origami King, and I would hate that so much.
Yeah, they would do something that fans wouldn't like.
Yeah. Well, anyway, beyond those games, like I just want to see more of the GameCube games that I grew up with and loved. Just get the attention on Switch, especially the more obscure series or the ones that haven't had games in a long time. Like F-Zero, Chibi Robo, And I'm sure there are plenty of others that are just
Star
not coming to
Fox.
mind right now. Oh, Star Fox, yeah.
I want both Star Fox games.
Here's hoping. It's funny. Like for the longest time, we were like, oh, you should just give us GameCube, NSO, and now we're like, nah, give it that HD treatment, Nintendo.
So would you rather have NSO GameCube or HD? Whereas with the NSO, it's just a ROM dump. So like it doesn't even have full screen art support. 16:9.
My wallet would prefer the NSO version, but the child within me and the wonder and the glee would rather have the HD remasters or the HD ports, whatever they're called. Because this is like a different playing field that we're entering. Like I feel like we have the full remake, we have the remaster, and now we have this HD port that's just emulated, but with some improvements.
Yeah, it's still like a port, but it's just that it's a port.
Yeah. Oh man, it makes me kind of excited, and I hope that they do this for more GameCube games and more Wii games for sure.
GameCube's definitely the Nintendo Nintendo system that's gotten the least amount of ports and remakes and all that stuff.
Right.
Maybe not actually. I'm sure DS is probably difficult. DS is probably up there.
Yeah. I don't know how they could do DS without completely remaking everything.
I mean, I said that about Wii U. I thought Wii U was just not going to ever see its games leave that system. And then there's not many that are stranded on that system anymore.
The Wii U is just the Xenoblade Chronicles X machine at this point. And one other. I don't know what.
I think it's mostly just that DS games, they would require the most amount of work, and there's not as much demand for them. They were kind of a product of their time.
Yeah, they require so much touchscreen stuff. Yeah, I mean, the only reason we got Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl and those managed to work out is because the touchscreen was hardly used anyway, right? So it was just a Pokemon game with the same Pokemon controls, and then it just had the touchscreen to interact with a couple of menus, and that was it. So they could work around that. Though by saying that, I am not giving them a pass on how terrible those games were. Those remakes were awful. But I don't know if there's much else to say about this. I mean, I think that the DS has some games that could eventually make their way over. I would love for Nintendo to actually fully remake Phantom Hourglass and Spirit Tracks in some way. You know?
Yeah,
Cool.
I'm still waiting for Mystery Dungeon 2.
Yeah, Mystery Dungeon 2. Yeah.
That was my favorite DS game. Anyway, how do we get onto DS? Like,
well, just like the love and the support that we're getting for all these ports and stuff. Plus, kind of talking about ports, we're getting Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon on the Switch. Or, well, I guess it's not confirmed on Switch.
We're also getting Batman Kados too. That's exciting.
Right. Yeah. And that's a full remaster from what I understand. It's not just an emulated port. So there's a lot coming, and I hope that we get more. And that, I guess that's where I will end what I have to say.
Well, so like the last two directs have shadow dropped these remasters. Two, it's not quite like a repeating series yet, but if we get 3 or 4 in a row, then we could start expecting these, right? But what would you say you want to be the next shadow drop GameCube remaster or HD?
Thousand Year Door.
Thousand Year Door?
Either Thousand Year Door or Prime 2.
Yeah, I think it's Prime 2 for me.
As much as I would love for Prime 2 to get the same treatment as Prime 1 did, I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah.
So I will take a Prime 2 HD port.
Yeah, I really want Prime 2 and Prime 3 to get to the Switch as soon as possible.
Agreed. Because if they're going to give us Prime 4 before the Switch is gone, we'll have to see. But like, did you hear though that the Nintendo president or the president of Nintendo in an investor call literally this week said that they are working on the next console finally? This is the first official confirmation we have from Nintendo that the Switch successor is coming.
Yeah, maybe they'll announce it in the September Direct, and then to avoid like a dip in sales for the Switch, they just lower the price of the Switch by $100 or so.
Yeah, I don't know. We're getting so close right now. It'll be interesting to see where things go. Anyway, anything else?
I think I'm good.
I think I'm good too. So that was kind of a fun discussion talking about Pikmin 2 and then going into these ports. That was a good episode, I think. But anyway, thank you so much for listening to this episode of the NintenFusion podcast. We sure appreciate you. Be sure to leave us a like, comment, review on whatever service you're using, as that helps the algorithm recommend the show to other people so that they can find us. Please be sure to check out our Discord channel by going to nintenfusion.com/discord, which will beam you right in. But with all that said, we'll wrap things up here, and thanks for listening to our podcast. And we'll catch you on the next one. Bye-bye.
See ya.